What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the overall markets. I'm also going to talk about some big news involving Tesla, which you should be watching for as time goes on. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total, not to mention 8.1% APY on uninvested cash. The offer ends very soon in just over 2 weeks. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening in the markets. Looking at Tesla, we're getting a bit of a dip so far as we're approaching these key supports. Tesla was due to see a small dip, so we're going to be watching to see how well we hold these levels. I'll talk more about them in just a couple of minutes. But just know this, there was some news that came out that JP Morgan is saying that, Tesla is a must-own stock in, the rally that we've been seeing. That's good news. I will talk more about that in more detail in my next video, so I'll talk more about that a little bit later. There's also news coming out about how Tesla is worth more than most of the rest of the car companies combined in the car industry. So it's pretty big news how big Tesla has become after this big rally. I don't think the rally is done yet. We are getting a small dip, but there is going to likely be more upside coming later on. Now, for data, just know this. Today is Tuesday, November 12th. We do have Waller giving a speech at 10 a.m. And then after that, we just have more Fed speakers like Barkin, Kashkari, Harker, and Barkin again, all just giving these speeches. Kashkari is going to be the main one at 2 p.m. Besides that, we just have some bill auctions. That's pretty much it. So watch for all of that. On top of this, just know this. As far as the market is gone, we just got Shopify and the Home Depot announcing their earnings. Then later on, we have SoundHound and Kava. So we'll watch and see how things end up going. So for Shopify, they did relatively well. They actually saw their growth accelerate by 26%, and their free cash flow margin expand to 19% for good growth. And it's very awesome to see that happen. That's why the share price is up quite a bit. They did really well at beating on EPS and revenue, and their outlook is quite strong for 2024. That's part of the reason why we are still doing a good job. Strong end of the year projections. Home Depot's sales are improving a bit, which is why the share price is slightly up, but it's still giving us these warnings that consumers are still cautious about their spending. So that's something that's worth mentioning. So you guys can see that when it comes to their EPS and revenue, they beat on EPS with $6 or $3.67. 40 billion was revenue above expectations, but then their guidance was so, and they are still talking about how there is uncertainty because of how consumers are cautious. So we'll see how things go for Q4, but that's what they're basically saying. On top of this, when it comes to more news, just know that we did see the market dip just a little bit, at least during the pre-market. We're going to be watching to see if buyers defend. The Home Depot is raising its outlook. And then on top of that, I'm not seeing anything else that's too crazy. GM has shown that, once again, it is continuing to remain very resilient as it's continuing to beat many expectations. I'm seeing a lot of shout-outs for it, but that's pretty much it, at least on headlines. Nothing else is too crazy. Anyways, that's it for all the news about the broader markets. Now let's just focus on Tesla and what's happening with the charts. Tesla has 340 as our main support, and the resistance to watch for is going to be around 346. If we break that, look for 350, and then above that. If we start losing 340, there is a risk of us coming all the way down to about 336. And if that fails us, I see us coming back down to about this 330 area. So it's going to be your two supports to watch for. Lose 330, then we could fill this gap, taking us all the way down to about the 322 area. And I think that might actually align close to our 4-hour 20 EMA if we do get another, another section upwards. So very close to the 320 area. There's a good chance Tesla might attempt to rebound off of that because we're going to be testing our 20 EMA closer to 320. We'll see if that ends up being the case or not. I do think Tesla's going to dip a little bit more from here, but watch and see where buyers defend us, whether it's in the mid 330s, if not at 330 flat. So we'll see how it ends up getting defended, but look for a little bit more downside. It's very healthy for Tesla to do this. Remember, we're only down 2%, 2.9% right now. Compare that to the fact that we're up, we're up dozens of percentage points, right? We're up over 100% compared to where we were about a month ago. We're still up like crazy. So don't worry too much about this little dip. We're still up pretty big. Now, for SPY, we dipped all the way down to my target. So it actually went down to the 596s during the pre-market. Now there are buyers defending it. So this might attempt to push for about 599, but just know that 599 and then 600 are tough resistance areas. So could we push a little bit higher to hit that resistance zone before we start dipping lower? That is a possibility, guys. So look and see SPY potentially do that. We might try to push a little higher before we start dipping again. So watch that very carefully, especially at 599 to 600 as our resistance areas. If we end up losing 597.5, we're going to be dipping back down to these lows. So look for a small push and potentially a rejection. Give this some time to develop. For other factors out there, we also happen to have an attempt to push by ES. ES is trying, at least so far, to show some signs of life. We're going to be looking for basically 6,040 as our potential target if this does try to push higher. If we end up losing support at 6,000 flat or 6,020, we're looking for 6,000 after that. But I think what's going to happen is we push a little bit higher, closer to about 6,040, and we'll see if we get a rejection on ES to start dipping lower again. It might just make a lower high compared to this, so look for a little bit more upside before it sees a little bit of a turn. So look for 640 as a target, then back down to about 620, and we'll see how things end up going. For others, we have Nvda. Nvidia is forming kind of like a double bottom here. It could attempt to push up to about 148 or so for a little bit of a push, but then watch Nvidia carefully because every time it has pushed this 148 to 150 area, it has rejected. So it may push a little bit higher before it gets to move back down. Just keep that in mind. As far as Bitcoin goes, we're on a bit of a downtrend here. We hit 90,000, now we're slowing down a bit. We could retest the 85,000 area, if not 82,890 before it tries to bounce again. So look for a little bit more downside before we see that very, very big move, possibly right back up. For other factors out there, we also happen to have, let me just double check this, NQ. NQ is just very flat right now. Might attempt to push up for about 21,300 before it starts to dip lower. Might be a little bit of a push before we come back down. We might see the QQQ retest 515 or above before it slips back down. Unless we break 518, that's likely what's going to happen, make a lower high. We just continue to consolidate. For others out there, such as Apple could push a little bit higher. We're basically looking for 225 as our resistance, not to mention 226.25. So look for a push for 225 or so, maybe a little bit above that before it starts turning back down. And we watch to see what kind of reaction we get, at least from here. So look for 225, the 225s to be coming before we start dipping lower. So give this the time it needs as it develops. For a few more, we have the IWM Russell 2000. We are kind of turning right here. If we end up losing 240, we're looking for this gap up for 238. And if we hold this, we could attempt to rebound. There is a risk of it dipping lower, so just be careful with that. For coin is also kind of slowing down, pushed up to 340. We need to reclaim 320. Otherwise, I do see risk of us getting closer to 300. If we don't reclaim 320, look for 300 as our potential target. Amazon has been pushing a bit. We're looking for 210 as our target. It did come very close to our target down here at 205. So we're looking for an attempt to get back up to 210, but watch that resistance in this 210 area. The last time we hit this, we did get rejected. So it could push for 210 and start flipping, so give it the time it needs. For Meta, it's the same thing. We're looking for 588 to 590 is our resistance area. We could push to this before we start dipping back down towards 585 and then 581. So give this some time to develop. Microsoft's on a bit of a downtrend. We're looking for a push back up to about the 419 to 420 area. We'll see if we get a rejection or not over here, especially if we have this imbalance down here. So look for an attempt to push before it starts to turn, so keep that in mind. And then for Google, we are forming a double top here. We're going to be looking for 182 as our resistance. If it does not break past that, we could be dipping back down for about 180. Might see a small dip on Google, so just keep that in mind. So as far as the market goes, we're doing a good job at holding up, but some stocks like Tesla are showing some weakness. It's no surprise, Tesla was due for a little bit of a dip after the amount of upside that it saw. So just be prepared for that, guys. I just want to give you guys a heads up about that. And with that being said, I thank you all so much for listening. So have a good day, guys. I will see you guys very soon in my next video in just a couple of hours. Until then, have a good day and peace out.